Hi, good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to Poem Praise 2 and Peace and blessings be upon you and your family this afternoon. Now, what I have for you this afternoon is we are going to go ahead and get into coping with your partner's jealousy. Currently, right now, we're on chapter number 3. This is take number 1 of this chapter, and I'm not going to hold you that long, about 10 to 15 minutes at the most. And the title of this chapter is Why Your Partner Turns Green. Some factors. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get it started. It reads as such. To deepen your understanding of your jealous partner, let's look at some possible ways his inner self could have developed. You must remember that you are an external observer, drawing inferences about another person's inner experiencing, and you cannot determine the accuracy of your inferences. Now, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, so one moment, we're going to take a break, and this is how you say this particular word. I'm going to spell it for you. INFERENCES. And let's hear it.
Inferences.
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 Inferences. Okay. Now, for inferences, what does it mean? Now, inferences, the definition is something that is inferred, especially a conclusion or opinion that is formed because of known facts or evidence. The act or process of inferring. Okay? Let's get back to the book. There are tests and other assessment techniques that are much more valid, but they have their flaws. It is not helpful, nor is it constructive, to think of your inferences as facts. In the table in chapter 1, we listed the following self-factors, the factors that define you as a person. Now, self-efficacy, I don't know if I said that correctly. I'm going to spell it SELF and then EFFICACY. Now, for how you say this word. I got you.
Self-efficacy.
Did you hear it? One more time.
Self-efficacy.
Self-efficacy. Self-efficacy. One more.
Self-efficacy.
Self-efficacy. Now, what does that mean? For self-efficacy, it refers to an individual belief in his or her capacity to execute behaviors necessary to produce specific performances, attainments. Self-efficacy reflects confidence in the ability to exert control over one's own motivation, behavior, and social environment. So we're going to learn about that, self-perception, control, need for affection, need for nurturance, need for deference, healthy adult narcissism, underdeveloped narcissism. Almost all these topics are the subject of numerous books and articles, and you are encouraged to seek out those on topics of interest to you. For more in-depth coverage, this chapter will define each concept, associate it with jealousy, and show you how you can understand it as it relates to you. Of course, the concepts discussed here are not the only self-factors you have. I present just a few to give you some notion or just how complex jealousy can be and why it is so difficult to change it in another person. Self-efficacy. Self-efficacy refers to personal effectiveness, the capacity to produce the desired result, and the ability to achieve results. Embedded in the definition of self-efficacy are the following thoughts and feelings about oneself: personal adequacy, proven capability or the potential for it, assurance that one can cause something to happen, ability to influence outcomes, skillful management, and technical expertise. Thus, self-efficacy is your belief in your ability in all of these qualities. For example, do you believe that you have the intelligence and talent to be successful in your chosen career or in an intimate relationship? In other words, can you affect the desired results? As you go through life, your ability to exert influences over what happens to you provide you with evidence about your effectiveness at producing the desired results, your self-efficacy, and your internalized this perception of your effectiveness as part of your belief system about yourself. If you have enough successes as achieving the desired result, whatever that may be, you develop a strong belief in your self-efficacy. If you meet with disappointments often enough, your doubt that your self-efficacy is sufficient. Notice that Notice that vague terms, such as enough or often enough, are used here. That's because there are individual differences between people, since what is enough for one person may not be enough for someone else. There are many early life events that could produce doubt about one's self-efficacy. Frequent moves, unstable or chaotic family life, homelessness, poverty, extended illness or of self or of a family member, absence of one or both parents, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, isolation of family, no support, no social support system, divorce, substance abuse in the family, family violence. Some children develop their sense of self-efficacy despite less than desirable events and circumstances. However, some people are left with a deep conviction that they cannot influence what happens to them, be personal, effective, or have desirable outcomes. These people usually did not develop a major component for positive self-confidence and will use ineffective means to try to have influence and feel competent. People such as these can be described as bullies, sneaks, cheaters, and manipulators. They may mistrust their ability to hold on to their partners. Their rage over their personal ineffectiveness gets displaced on their partners. Neither person in the relationship can know when the feeling of lack of self-efficacy will emerge or what will cause it to emerge. This is a part of the self that may be mostly hidden or not understood. Self-perception. I'm looking at that to see if we have enough time for self-perception. Yeah, we have enough time. Let's go ahead and get into self-perception. In this book, The Emerging Self, 1993, James Masterson describes a healthy self-image or self-perception as one where the person thinks and feels about himself as being adequate, competent, based on reality with some input from fantasy. The person's inner representation of the self is an integrated one that is able to hold both good and undesirable or unwanted aspects of the self at the same time. This means that the person is self accepting, aware of personal flaws and other imperfections, confident in his ability to affect the world in needed ways, forgiving of his mistakes and errors, believes that he will survive it, believes that he will survive if left alone to fend for himself, able to tolerate shame and guilt without falling apart or repressing or denying them. Aware of his self as distinct and separate from others, primarily realistic. The term self-esteem means the extent to which one has a favorable self-perception. Low self-esteem equates with a very unfavorable perception of self. High self-esteem equates with a healthy perception of self, and excessive self-esteem equates with an inflated perception of self. Exercise 6. Self-perception scale. Now right here, I'm actually going to stop right here. We're going to start our next take with actually talking about an exercise, okay? So to prepare for the next one, you're going to, because I kind of don't want to stop in the middle of a section, y'all. That's what I'm thinking about right now. So I really don't want to stop. We only at 12 minutes. I might hold you a little bit longer than 15, but let's go ahead with this exercise right here to continue on to complete up perception, okay? Now, use the following exercise will help you rate your own self-perception and make inferences about your partner's self-perception. Use the following scale. Number 5 is always, almost always. 4 is frequently, much of the time. 3 is sometimes. 2 is seldom. And number 1, never or almost always. Now, you're going to have me and partner. So this is what it looks like in the book. You're going to have me over there and partner over here. So you're going to have 2 lines. So you can certainly check for yourself, put a number for yourself and your partner if you're going to do this while I'm reading to you to read right along and do the exercise right now while I'm talking. You ready? Okay. I feel profoundly ashamed of myself. I find it hard to forgive myself or cannot forgive myself. When I make a mistake, I feel very bad. I feel flawed and unwanted. I maintain a facade of adequacy, but I really feel inadequate. I cannot get most of my needs met. I feel I am unable to influence others to care for me. I am afraid that others will see me as I really am and will reject me. I don't get enough reassurance of my worth from others. I am disappointed in myself. Add your ratings to obtain a total score for yourself. Scores ranging from 41 to 50 indicate a very negative self-perception. Scores of 31 to 40 indicate a negative self-perception. Scores of 21 to 30 indicate some negativity about yourself. Scores of 11 to 20 indicate little negativity in your self-perception. And scores of 0 to 10 indicate a high and positive self-perception. You may not have been able to rate your partner on all items, and so we will use a different scoring procedure for your partner. Count the number of items you rated as 3 or above. 5 or more items rated as 3 plus indicate a very negative self-perception. 3 or 4 items rated as 3 plus indicates a negative self-perception. And fewer than 3 items rated as 3 plus may suggest a positive self-perception. if you were able to rate your partner on 6 or more items. If fewer than 6 items were rated, your rating of your partner's self-perception is inconclusive. However, you may have gained enough information about your partner to understand a little more about his perception of himself. When your partner does not perceive himself as adequate or competent in a realistic way, that can play a role in triggering his jealousy. These feelings about himself may be buried deep and may not be in his conscious awareness, but they still exert an influence in unconscious ways. A negative self-perception and low self-esteem contribute to his feelings about being effective, worthwhile, and good enough. And these can lead to irrational thoughts about his partner. After all, if you could see him as he sees himself, you too might be as unaccepting of him as he is of himself. Oh, that's almost like Instead of being on the outside looking in, you're actually doing some exercise where you could be on the inside looking out. An interesting exercise here to actually take for self and to take on the behalf of someone else for analyzing purposes. Like the way you did that, Miss Nina Brown, how you broke that down in the book for that exercise. Well, that does complete this take. I know I did hold you a little bit longer than 15 minutes. Yeah, I did, and I do thank you for staying here for that long. Certainly, please like, share. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm gonna turn that down. Yeah. Sorry, I had some notifications. Excuse me for that. And I would like for you to like, to share. Certainly hit the notification bell if you would like, so you'll know when I'm going to be reading this again to you, or any book that I read here on Poem Praise 2 for that matter. Again, I would like to thank you for coming to Poem Praise 2. I want for you to be well, to take care, to be blessed, and it be at thy will. I will speak with you again soon here on Poem Praise 2. And so until next time, later, y'all.